All right, so we are in Blender 5.0 I'm running currently, and I will tell you everything you need to know to make a 3D VR180 scene and render it, and all the settings you have to change. All right, so I'm just gonna set up a real quick, simple scene here. Let's throw a floor down. Let's get rid of the cube. Let's put in Suzanne to make it a little interesting. Good enough. All right, first thing we want to do is change from EV to cycles. Let's select GPU. I'm just going to turn this way down to 22. And this to 12. That seems to be my numbers that I go with. Next, we want to make a square size image. So 2048 is a good one. I think that might be the minimum that YouTube allows. I kind of found that out the long way. So let's just go 2048 by 2048. All right, next thing we need to do is go down to where it says stereoscopy. Let's keep it on stereo 3D. That means it will use this version compared to this one will use one camera. This one uses two separate camera objects. So one camera, that's good enough. And we want to, what else do we want to do? We don't need an RGB channel, so we don't need an alpha channel, so we'll just hit RGB. And now if you scroll down a little farther, we will put it on stereo 3D. And then that will open up these options. So this is when you have like the red and blue images kind of overlaid on top of each other. But we don't want that. We want side by side. So we will do side by side. And we don't have to check any of these. So that should be all we need to do for this. So now let's take our camera. Let's look down. We're going to let's move our camera over a little bit. All right, that's good enough. And you can see it working already because we hit stereoscopy. It now has two images on top of each other, a left view and a right view. So the next thing we want to do is, first select your camera and then go down to the camera properties. And this is very important or else it won't work. You have to hit panoramic and then you have to select the first one, which is equirectangular. And if you notice, this says -180 and 180 for the longitude, minimum and maximum. But we don't want that. We're doing a one. It sounds like it's right, but it's not. What we want is -90 and 90. And that will give us 180 degrees left and right. We leave the latitude the same. So basically we're making a hemispheric image that will be mapped onto a square basically. All right, now we go down to stereoscopy. This is a different one. I like to do parallel. This one seems to work the best. It's the most comfortable when viewing. I tried toe in and it was not great, and I tried all of these in different combinations and things like that. Just stick with parallel. That seems to work the best. So now we're looking through the camera, and this is our interocular distance. That's the distance between the two cameras, or your two eyes that we're viewing the scene through. And notice it's only going one way if we change this. So I like to go down here. This is it's set to left, but let's change it to center. So now that's what happens. So the cameras separate from the center out from the current camera. There's only one camera, remember. So the trick now is how big, we're not really worried about the scale of the scene and the scale of the objects. I mean, you can do that if you want, but it all depends on how big you want the Suzanne head to look. So what we'll do is let's go to the overhead view, and this is just a quick and dirty way to kind of figure out the scale of everything. So I move the cursor there. I'm just going to add a UV sphere and just pretend this is the head of the person looking at the scene. So if you think of it that way, and you come over here to measure, the measuring tool, and just kind of like if you're looking down at someone's head, you know, the left eye might be there and the right eye might be around there. So that gives you kind of a ballpark spot to start. So 0.6, that's the number we get. So what you do is go back to the camera, go back to the camera properties, and then right here, interocular distance, put in that number, so 0.6. So now the cameras will be separated by that distance if you look through the camera. So if you look at the size of this head, this is how small the Suzanne head will look in 3D in VR. So you can do this if you want it to look really huge. You could scale this head down, this temporary head, and then you could just grab the endpoints of these. Just kind of guesstimate. I mean, it would be cool if you had a 3D head model that had the eyes modeled to be, you know, more accurate, I guess. But that's a rough ballpark where the eyeballs would be in the distance. So now it's only 0.18. And this makes a huge difference in the VR scene that you're looking at. I've done like Titanic scenes in VR. Maybe I'll put a couple links to those. And it's neat because if you dial in the eye distance, the interocular distance, and make it like 10 times bigger than it should be, the boat looks 10 times smaller. That's kind of how it works. It only looks like, you know, maybe like an 80-foot boat instead of an 800 and something foot boat. So it's really pretty neat how that works. So let's dial that in for our camera. Let's select our camera again, and we'll put in just 0.18. So now when we go to our thing, notice it's a lot closer together. All right, so now what we're going to do is let's see what this actually looks like if we when we hit render. It's going to render the current frame. See how different it looks now? This is because the we're looking at 180 degrees up and down and left and right. And so the Suzanne gets a lot smaller in the scene. So it's rendering. So now it finished both the left and the right render, and it stuck them on top of each other. Like if you had red and blue 3D glasses, this would actually work. If you viewed this, which I gotta try. I don't have any of those, so it's like those cardboard ones. So anyway, if you notice up here, these 3D glasses are turned on. If you turn that off, now you can view the left and the right image kind of separately. So that's what that does. And now I think real quick I will show you. I'm just going to go here. I already wrote one out. It's called VR182. Now I'm going to actually render a frame and save it, and we'll show you what that looks like. So we're only going to render from frame 1 to frame 1. And I feel like I should make this a little more interesting. Let's move this light. I guess that's good enough. I don't know. All right, so we can make this a little more interesting. We can just put a subdivision. This is not really a demo on this kind of thing, but we're just going to make it a little bit nicer looking. So subdivision, it's going to render at 2. Right click on it to shade smooth. What else do we want to do? We'll add a surface. We'll make it metallic. We'll make it a bit rough. And then let's just add a surface on that. Floor, we'll make it a little darker. And we can make that metallic too and make it kind of the same roughness. So now if we look at it, it looks like that. It's not a whole lot going on in this, so we'll hide our sphere. We don't want to see that in the render. All right, let's make this bigger. And let's add a, trying to keep this short, but this is how it always goes. All right, so we're gonna add an HDRI real quick. I have a bunch. We'll just pick a cloudy one. All right, that looks a little better. And we can move our camera in a little bit closer. All right, just keyframed it. All right, so if you notice, this is kind of neat. If you go see how much closer it is in these two views, or wireframe, solid, and material view, but if you go to the rendered view, that actually shows what your 180-degree camera is going to look like. So that's kind of a, you know, if you want to actually see what it's going to look like, you would want to go to rendered view. All right, so let's render a frame of this. First, I'm going to save it real quick. Choose VR180. All right, so let's render a frame. So it's rendering the second view. And there, put both images together again. If you unclick that, you can see the left and the right. All right, here's our scene. I moved the camera a little closer. We're gonna do a still just one frame of this as a render, like a render animation. And we're only gonna go from frame 1 to frame 1. And let's see what that looks like. So that's the first frame, the first side, the left side. Now it's rendering the right side, or the right view. So now it, when you have the 3D glasses turned on, it looks like that. When you turn them on, it's left and right. Individual. All right, so that's all you need to know to render a 3D VR180 video out of Blender. And now I'll go over to After Effects, and that's where I will show you a couple settings in there that you need to know to actually write out your 3D scene. All right, before we go to After Effects, I just wanted to show you guys that I made the scene a little more interesting. I made it 180 frames long, and I moved the camera just kind of past the first Suzanne there a little bit. It'll be a little more exciting to look at, and instead of just one frame. And I added some more Suzanne heads. So I just wanted to let you know that. So I rendered it, and now we're going to go over to After Effects. All right, so here we are in After Effects. I loaded the scene in. It's 180 frames. So I'm going to drag that down to here, and that will make a new composition. So here we have our animation, left side, right side, all as one image. So I will show you how to write this out and make it a 3D VR180 video. All right, so we're in our comp, and we go up to Composition, Add to Render Queue, and now we're in our render queue, and I'm just going to make it an H.264 video, which is nice and simple, and go to Format Options, and I just crank this all the way up, and I also make a keyframe every frame. And now here is the important bit. So you want to check off or turn on the video is VR, and we want to scroll down to stereoscopic side by side. And then there's one more thing we have to do is we have to change the 360 to 180 because that's our viewing angle. And then that should be it. And if you want to put sound on it, you could do that. So that's that. And now we're just gonna set our output name. All right, so I'm gonna call this VR180 3D test 1. And then all you do is write it out by hitting render. All right, it is finished. You could take a look at it. All right, so here we are. There's our MP4 that we wrote out. 3D test, VR180 3D test 1. This is what it looks like. I think it just picks one side of the video. So it looks like it works all right. It's a little hard to tell that it's a 3D video and it's in VR by just watching it in this Windows player, media player. But it should work perfectly fine in YouTube to update it, and to upload it. In YouTube, it should work fine. So I think what I'll do is I'll make that a little bit longer, and then I'll write it out and then upload it to my YouTube channel so you guys can take a look at what it looks like on YouTube. And if you have VR headset, that's kind of the preferred way to look at these things, obviously, because it's in 3D, and that will allow you to move your head around, and it'll be really neat. So one more thing I wanted to say is in After Effects, when we are setting these settings here, what this is basically doing is, under Format Options, when you select Video as VR and then you select Side by Side in 180 by 180 degrees, that is adding metadata to the video file. And that way, whatever player you're using will know what the format is for this VR video. So I just wanted to mention that. You can write out a QuickTime movie, but it doesn't have this Video as VR option. But there is a way to insert the metadata, and that's what with a third-party kind of piece of software that somebody wrote, and I was able to find it online. I guess I'll show you that next if you don't want to write out your video as an H.264 out of After Effects. You can basically write out your video without any metadata in it, and then you can run this little program which basically just inserts the metadata. But first I'm going to write this out as a QuickTime movie. We don't need to go crazy. I'll just do this one, I guess, with the quality. This is just for a demonstration, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to hit OK. And then this will have the .mov on the end of it. So let's write it out. Quality will be better with an MOV compared to an H.264. If you do the 44441, that's really good quality. It's very little compression. All right, so we are back, and this is a thing I found on the internet. So I think if you just Google this, VR180 Creator, VR180 Creator, this is Windows 4.0. There might be a newer one, who knows, I'm not sure. But if you install that or download it, it will add a whole bunch of stuff. And down the bottom here is VR180 Creator. It's an exe file, just run that. And what this will do is take our MOV video, which does not have any metadata for VR180 information. It doesn't have that information, the left and the right and the 180 degrees. So that's what this program, literally, that's what it does. So you don't have to worry about these two options. That's only if you're going to edit in VR in, After Effects or Premiere. I haven't really used these for anything, but because I'm just writing them out of After Effects. You run this one, you select your video. It is this one, which is the .mov. See how it's a lot bigger than the other one? This one's a lot more compressed. So just double click that. So now it loads it. And then it's basically, it's left and right. It's not top and bottom. There's a way to do it also, but left and right I think works better. It's a 180 video. All right, so it's horizontal 180, vertical 180. And all you do is say export. I'm not really sure what this is all about. So export, and now it's going to say, it's going to take the name of your file and just put dash injected at the end of it, which is perfectly fine. And then just hit export. Depending on how long your video is, this might take a few minutes, but this should be fairly quick. So it's writing that metadata, and it really doesn't change your video at all. I think it's just adding that data into the file and rewriting it. So it says it's done. So now it's a formatted video now that you could directly upload to YouTube. All right, so I have a animation I wrote out. I just used our camera going past Suzanne, and I made it go forward and backward 3 times to add a little bit of length to the scene. So I wrote that out as a H.264 with the side by side and the 180 degrees checked off, and I'm gonna upload that to my channel. And I'll, you basically just upload it like you would any other video, and YouTube is smart enough to know what to do with it. So this is the one I just wrote out, so I'm just going to drag that over. I always hit Control just so it says copy for some reason, but you don't have to do that. And so now it's uploading, and it's going to take a little while because it has to upload it and then check it and all that stuff. So one thing is, once the video is done being processed and it's uploaded and it's on your channel and you can view it, you can't see it in VR right away. The video has to kind of be processed a little bit farther. So it might take, up to 15 minutes before you can actually view it with a VR headset. So just keep that in mind. It's not immediate once the video is uploaded. It's not just immediately a VR video. It takes a while. It has to be processed. So this is what I've found out over the kind of years I've been doing this. So just keep that in mind. All right, so the video is uploaded at this point. Now it's processing it down at the bottom. It says there's 2 minutes left. I just added a title and I added a description. I'm gonna tell it to be in my 3D VR playlist. And I'm just gonna check off a bunch of things here. I guess film and animation is probably okay. So it looks like it's processing. I'll go to the next. All right, I don't really care about any of this. So now it's processing up to 4K, which will take a little bit. Shouldn't be any issues with it. Okay, so that finished processing. It says checks complete, no issues found. If I go to the next thing, I'm just going to keep it private, and then that way I can check the video with the VR headset and make sure everything works great. All right, so you can see here that the video is in my list of videos. It's set to private. And if we were to view on YouTube, this is what happens. It's only been like a minute since I uploaded it and it was processed and all that. So now if you notice, it doesn't look that great, and you don't get that little thing up in the corner there that lets you know it's a VR video. I'll show you one of those in a second. So if you click on the gear icon, you can see that it really only goes up to 720p, which isn't the full resolution. So that means the video is still processing. So you have to wait for it probably, 10, 15 minutes, hopefully. And I'll get back to you after that. All right, so this is another VR180 video on my channel. And this is what it looks like when it's processed, where it now has this little icon up in the corner, and that kind of lets you know that it's processed and it's a VR video. And you should be able to grab it with a mouse if you're on a computer and pan around and stuff like that. And if you play it, this is what it looks like. And then if you have a VR headset, this would be, in VR, where you can move your head or pan your head and tilt your head, and it will all move, and it'll feel like you're flying through this little meadow. So this was a kind of a glorified test of the new scatter on surface modifier in Blender 5.0. So I had a little fun with it, and just kind of came up with this little scene where I just ran the camera forward and then backward, and that's me playing the guitar on top of that. I was just messing around one day, so I just figured I would use that little piece of music there. All right, so now we're back to my channel. I'm gonna click on this Suzanne video. We'll view it on YouTube, and we'll see if it's processed. Yeah, it looks like it is now. It has the icon up in the corner. Now you can grab it and tilt left and right and up and down. And also, if you click on the gear icon, you could see all the different resolutions. That would be really awful at that resolution. Really, really bad. But so now you can go all the way up to 2160, which should be pretty nice. All right, so here's the animation. It should totally work in a VR headset, like a Meta Quest 3 or a 2 or a 3S. And that's how you make VR180 videos in Blender. All right, thanks for watching.